Alright, so we're cracking on. We have our app component up and running, right? And inside this app component, we have a JSX template. This is all being compiled behind the scenes and injected into our HTML web page automatically by React. And we've seen this kind of JSX syntax before. It's very, very much like regular HTML. But what we haven't talked about yet is how we use images inside this JSX template and how we style our template with style sheets. So in this lesson, we're going to take a closer look at how to use images. And then in the next lesson, we'll move on to using style sheets. Now there's two ways we can use images in React applications. The first way is to add your images inside the source folder, much like this logo SVG file is right here. Now sometimes I might create an assets folder inside the source folder and place all my images in there. And then we can import those images into a component to use it. Now right now inside the app component, we're importing the logo SVG file at the top. And then all we do is we output that inside the source attribute on the image tag. So notice here that we don't use quotes for the attribute. We're just using curly braces because we're outputting something dynamic. We've seen that kind of syntax before. So when we use an image in this way, it's being processed by Webpack under the hood. Webpack is something that Create React App uses to bundle our compiled code ready for use in the browser. You don't have to think too much about that because it all happens automatically for us without us having to do anything, which is pretty nice. So that's the first thing we can do to add images, by storing them in the source folder and then importing them into a component and using it as the source attribute for an image tag. The second way is to put images in the public folder. Remember, anything in the public folder is made accessible to the browser. So if we place an image inside there, then we can just reference it in our image tags. For example, I could move the logo SVG file from the source folder into the public one. And then in the app component, I'm going to remove the logo import because I don't need that anymore. And there's no logo to import anymore because I've moved it. And then in the source attribute for the image, I can just say /logo.svg because everything inside the public folder is available at the root level of the domain. And this is no longer a dynamic value, so it's in quotes, not the curly braces, right? So now in the browser, we can see that this still works. Cool, so that's two ways that we can use images in React components. But which way is the better way? Well, there's not an awful lot in it, to be honest. But what I tend to do is put any site-wide images that might be used in many different places inside the public folder. I'd also do that if importing specific images for some reason might be problematic, or if you're using that image outside the scope of React. And by that, I mean somewhere else on the HTML page outside of the root element where our React application is injected. But for images that are one-off and only used in specific components, I'd probably import them from the source folder. In this course, I'll be using a mixture of both methods so that you can get a good feel for each one. Next up, we're going to take a look at how we're using CSS in this React project.